real quick.
Have you ever had somebody let you down? Now don't point. I mean your best friend. The guy who swore he'd be with you through thick and through thin. Well, meet Pete. Pete lived a long time ago, about 2,000 years. He was physically unremarkable to look at, kind of overweight, a little bit balding. Pete threw himself 100% into everything he did. I can really appreciate that. He also stuck his foot in his mouth way too often. I can relate to that. One time, Pete and his buddies were out in a boat. They were fishing. And another one of their buddies, Jesus, was standing on the water. And Jesus said, "Come on over." Pete said, "I'll do it." So he stepped out of the boat, put his foot on the water, and he sunk like a rock. Well, you may have guessed by now that Pete is actually Saint Pete, the Apostle Peter. And even though I can relate to many aspects of Peter's life, I think I can most identify with what happened to him the night of Jesus' trial. You see, the trial was held in a private house with a large courtyard. Peter made his way cautiously to the courtyard. Shortly before then, Peter had been with all his buddies, the other apostles, and Jesus. And Peter had said, "I will follow you anywhere, even to the death if necessary." In fact, I think he pointed to the other guys and said, "Even if all these guys deny you, I never will." So, all the same though, Pete wasn't real keen on being identified as being with the man on the trial. Hey, at least he was there. I mean, all his buddies, they were at home watching, I don't know, Chariot NASCAR or something. But he was there, and he walked in. It was a cold, crisp night, and everybody was standing around, warming themselves at a fire they had made. When Peter sat down, I think he stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, have you ever seen the TV show Deadliest Catch? Well, I think Pete looked a lot like the captain of the Time Bandit. Sort of a rough, tough commercial fisherman. But even tough guys like to stay warm. So Pete sat down and started warming himself. As he sat down, a little servant girl, about 14 years old, right next to him, looked over at him. And she kept looking at him. And she kept thinking to herself, "Now where do I know this guy from?" Finally, she put two and two together. "Hey, I know you. You were with Jesus." Oh man, his cover was blown. What was he going to do? He looked at her and said, "Woman, I don't know who you're talking about." Tough guy, huh? Shortly later, somebody else identified him. And he said, "I don't know who you're talking about." Pete finally made his way into the house so he could see what was going on in the trial. And as he got to the door, a third guy stopped him and said, "Boy, you're not from around here, are you?" Well, here was Peter's big chance. He could have said, "Yes, I am with Jesus." Or he could have ran out of there. But you know, here's the part I most identify with Peter. He didn't do either of those two things. Instead, he said, "Dude, I don't know who you're talking about, and may God strike me dead if I'm lying." Everybody sort of backed away from the target zone. But the Bible says that Jesus looked right at Peter. Now, you ever do something really, really boneheaded, and you hope that nobody noticed? Well, Jesus noticed. And he looked at Peter, and I don't think he looked at him with anger. I think Jesus looked at Peter with compassion, as if to say, "Pete, I know you're not the tough guy that you like to show everybody." Well, that did it for Peter. He ran back outside to the courtyard, sat down again, and started sobbing violently. He had done the thing he swore he would never do. He let down his best friend. He denied him. Well, at this point, I might think that Jesus would be done with Peter. Fortunately, I would be wrong. Jesus was crucified. As far as Peter and his buddies knew, he was gone forever. So they went back to their old job, commercial fishing. They're out there fishing one night. Suddenly, Peter sees Jesus standing across on the beach. Peter was overjoyed. He threw down his stuff, ran back across the beach, and said, Jesus, Jesus. Well, Jesus just looked at Peter and said, Peter, do you love me? What a question. Peter said, Jesus, you know that I love you. Then Peter, feed my sheep. Again, Peter, do you love me? Jesus asked that question 3 times. I think 3 times because he was saying, Pete, I know you denied me and let me down 3 times. But I forgive you 3 times 3,000. And now I have a big job for you to do. What was that job? Well, Pete, along with his buddies, James, John, the Apostle Paul, became the most influential members of the early church. So how about you? Is there somebody who's let you down? Somebody who needs a second chance from you? The next time somebody lets you down, remember Jesus and Peter. 2,000 years ago, Jesus forgave Peter, and we're still reaping the benefits today. Give that person in your life a second chance. After all, who knows what might happen 2,000 years from now? Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you. Well, Gary, you have a style all of your own. Thank you.